Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Newtson. Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. Hope you're all having a great week. It's a good one here. It's still warm. I played some golf this weekend. You can't ask for much more. I could ask for my daughter to sleep a little better, but that's beside the point. But before we get into today's show, just want to let you know today's episode brought to you by Titleist's new TSI Woods. The TSI Woods, as everybody has seen, have been fantastic. Everybody who's hit the TSI 3, TSI 2, the TSI 4, TSI 1, across the board, Titleist, it's just knocked it out of the park with this lineup. The aerospace titanium face, all the new technology, the new movable weight system on the TSI 3. All that stuff has been fantastic, and it's probably one of the hottest drivers out there right now, whether on tour or just at your local course. But, it's the longest, straightest driver line that Titleist has ever made. So super excited. I know I keep telling you guys I haven't hit all of them yet, and I haven't. I'm definitely working on it. But these here, everybody I know who has one is absolutely in love with it. So if you haven't tried them yet, definitely try out the Titleist TSI line. Like I said, one is high launch for lower swing speed players looking for a little more distance, maybe a little help with a little more draw. TSI 2 is mid-high launching, ton of forgiveness, super high MOI. TSI 3 is probably the best combination of low spin, forgiveness, ball speed, great sound, great feel. And then the TSI 4 is that low spin monster for those those players who need it. So go to Titleist.com, check out the TSI lineup, and also learn about scheduling a fitting for a TSI driver. So big news there. Everybody knows the TSI is the one I've been kind of chasing down. So I know it's been a struggle for me to get my hands on one, but again, so popular that even at the office, we they're hard to come by. It's whoever gets their hands on it, it's gone. So it's not in my possession. But yeah, we got another good show. Got to play golf this weekend. Me and my buddy John, who I play with a lot, went out on Sunday, got 18 holes in. It was super nice. A little windy, but it was really nice. It was probably high 60s, if not 70. It was just great. So we went out and played a little Sanctuary Lake in Troy. If anybody knows Metro Detroit golf courses, built on an old trash heap. So it's kind of fun that you tee off on 1, 10, 7, and like 12, I think, or something like that, are all on top of the hill, and you hit down. So, one's a par 4, you tee off up on top of the trash mound, and you hit down. It's kind of a link-style course. There's not a ton of trees except for maybe just a couple holes, probably like 4 or 5 holes. But overall, it's not a long. It's not a long course anyway. We played it kind of short. We got paired up with these two women who were very nice and actually hit the ball pretty well. But they played from the white tees, and we decided it was busy. We weren't going anywhere. We weren't passing anybody. We'd just play at the same tees and not have to wait to tee off and all this stuff. And little did we know that they had moved some of the white tees up to where the gold tees were, so there were some very short holes. There were some holes I was definitely bummed that we kept driving, and I was like, wow, that's all the way up here? I was like, oh god. So there was a par 4 where I hit hybrid onto the front of the green and had a, what was it, probably 10-foot putt for eagle that I missed and tapped in for birdie though. And yeah, there were just some holes there that it was a little bit of a bummer. But again, like I said, it was, we're golfing in the middle of March, well, now the 3rd week of March, which if you're from the north, that is a very hit or miss time. So I'll take it. I'll still take it. Went out there with a few different clubs. I'm still, the ZX7 irons are still in the bag, so those were phenomenal. I did have another iron in the bag with me just to test and hit, which was fun, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then, yeah, I had the new, I got the All-Fit system, which we'll talk about that in a minute as well, because I know a lot of people have been asking me a lot of questions on that, and I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm getting there. It's there's a lot of moving parts to that, that, again, we'll talk about in a minute. So, yeah, I had some stuff out there. It was fun. Played the brand new Z-Star XV ball most of the day, and do have to say it was really good. I think I talked about the Z-Star and Z-Star XV a little bit last week. This week I basically just pulled a sleeve of XVs out, and I didn't lose a ball until, I don't even know, I hit, on 18, I lost a ball, and I had a scuffed one that I did bounce one off a cart path, and it was pretty scuffed, so I took it out of play. But I only lost one ball there, and that was, like I said, on 18, and I was taking a little bit of an aggressive line, and I hit a little bit of a cut when I've been hitting a pretty straight ball all day, and it's a dogleg right, and I just kind of cut it into the long grass, and there you go. But anyway, it was a fun round. Like I said, had a great time. It was nice. I mean, that course is always fun. I played it a ton of times, and the greens were in rough shape. I mean, it's still early. They're not, out rolling or mowing or anything like that. So putting was tough. I mean, you hit putts and the ball would bounce. I made a birdie putt on a par 3 that I hit it just beyond the pin by about, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet, and I was just on the fringe. The ball just rolled on the fringe, and I putted it, and it was missing left the whole way. It was just like gonna miss on the left edge, and at like the very end, about 6 inches from the cup, it just kind of jumped right and fell in the hole. And it was funny because I was like, oh, okay, I made birdie there, birdie there, but I'm like, if the greens were the greens, that ball rolls by. But anyway, it was still fun. Like I said, I hit the ball pretty well. Hit some really good shots. Had some really, like, it's weird. Like I started off like par, made a bogey, and then it's like I got to, I don't remember what hole it was. I think it was like 5 or 6, and I literally just flat out topped one. I think I topped my drive, so I hit it like, I don't know. I Brysoned it. I didn't even hit it 150 yards, so I probably hit it like 80 yards. Hit actually a good 6-iron because I was kind of on a down slope and all. I hit a great like 6-iron out in the middle of the fairway, and then proceeded to top the next shot. I'm pretty sure I hit it low heel, and it peeled off just like short right of the green. Hit a wedge on that. I actually thought that actually ended up really good. I hit a good wedge on, and then it was just like a whole hole where I like didn't keep my head down, early release. I mean, everything was just going wrong, and it was it didn't matter what club. I hit it terrible. For the most part of the day, I hit Sim 2 Max, which was really good, my all black one, and I was hitting that with Hazardous Smoke Green for most of the day, and I do just say it started out great, and at the end of the day, it kind of got away from me a little bit. Didn't hit as solid as shots near the end of the day, but I don't think it was the club. I'm pretty sure it was me. But anyway, like I said, I think I shot. I think we played it at like 5,200 yards, and I think I shot 81. So that's not great. Like I'm not looking to brag about that a whole lot. And I shot 81 with a double, or was it a double on the last hole? It was a par 5 because I knocked one OB, and I made another double somewhere else, but like I said, I mean, it was just it was still fun to get out. I didn't really care. So yeah, but it was a great day. So I'm gonna have some clubs to talk about here, and like I said, we'll get into the all fit system a little bit. I'm gonna probably do another show on all fit when I get I did some of the driver stuff here. I loaded up 2 heads, and they sent me the iron system, which is more for fitters. I don't think we would actually use it as gear nuts, but I think like in my situation where at WRX we're going to test some clubs and hit some more irons with different shafts and all that, it definitely could come in handy there. So I think I'm going to get into it more, but like I said, I'll talk about kind of the 2 heads and things that are, interesting that I've noticed from, this, comparing Club Connects to all fits. So we'll get into that as well. But first I'll get into a couple irons that I've been hitting, and 2 of them, which it depends. I wonder how interested people will be with them. It basically are 2 irons that, I think my audience, it depends. I don't think everybody's going to be, crazy about these, but I think they're pretty solid offerings, and I guess they're worth talking about, and they're fun to hit. But how about the TaylorMade Sim 2 Max and Sim 2 Max OS? So I've got both. I'll go Sim 2 Max first. So yeah, Sim 2 Max, they're basically forgiving distance iron, and it's kind of a big hollow body design. It's got a fairly thick top line, a little bit of offset, not crazy amount, but a decent amount of offset there. But made for the mid to high handicap player, and it's made to be super forgiving. But they've also engineered some stuff in there to make it sound and feel better also. So it's definitely long. If you want to go with a whole loft route, it plays off a 43.5 degree pitching wedge, and the 4-iron's 19 degrees. So definitely some stronger lofts. I know some people really have a big thing about that. I personally don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever irons I decide on, I'm going to play them. And if they're weaker lofted or stronger lofted or whatever, it doesn't matter. But as strong as these lofts are, the ball launches pretty darn high. They're super easy to get in the air. They're very forgiving, ton of ball speed off there, very low spin, but very, very, easy to hit. And honestly, they have a pretty thick top line. They've got a little bit of offset. They're long heel to toe. I mean, they're big. But when you sit down at the range and stuff and you hit balls with them, they don't seem crazy big. Like, they're just, they don't stick out like I thought they would be, or they would. Like I said, they're pretty average. And I think for the player who, needs some help and is looking for forgiveness and some distance and all that, it's a decent looking iron. Compared to what, some other stuff out there that's crazy offset and, maybe got a little different shape to them. These are pretty classic TaylorMade irons. I mean, the design of them, they've got all the classic TaylorMade tech. They got the speed slot in the bottom, so it helps kind of the face compress, especially on shots low on the face. They've got basically a brand new system. They call it echo dampening system to make it actually sound better. And it's interesting because it does actually sound pretty good when you hit a ball with it. I mean, it's got a little bit of click, but it really has kind of a thud. It's a low-pitched thud. It really does reduce some of the sound, even with like really hard range balls. I was kind of impressed. I was expecting them to be, they feel firm. Like, definitely when you hit the face definitely feels firm. You can kind of, feel that stainless steel firmness of the face. But overall, like, the sound is pretty darn good. I was shocked. I really was not expecting it to be as good as it was. But like I said, these things really do go high and far. Shots kind of anywhere on the face still carry really well, and they stay on line really well. I mean, they definitely are, if you're somebody who's looking to work the ball, hit low shots, and, hit high cuts and things like that, this thing's going to hit a high cut because that's all, it's just going to hit it high. Flighting it down, things like that, it's not that easy to do with these things, but it's not meant for that. It's meant for the player who needs some help, who wants an iron that's going to help get the ball in the air. It's going to go a long way, and if they don't put a good swing on it, it's still going to go a good amount of distance and stay, on line fairly well. And it does all that. It really does. It's got a, like I said, the face is hot. The ball seems to just jump off. It jumps off high, and it just goes. Like I said, they're definitely low spin. They've got a pretty flat apex when they get up in the air. But they seem to hold the green all right. Like I said, I didn't take them to the course, but hitting on the, towards the pins at, at the range, it would kind of just drop, and that was it. It didn't really have a ton of release, anything like that. So I think the trajectory out of these is going to basically keep them holding on the greens. Are you going to be pulling shots back? Probably not. But again, I don't think that's what the player who buys these is looking for. But overall, the performance is really good. Shots low on the face still get up in the air really easily. Definitely a little more draw to them. It's really easy to turn these things over. So hitting the fade, it does take some of that fade away. It adds some draw, but it helps get the ball up in the air too. I mean, when you hit it kind of low heel, it stays on line. When you hit it off the toe and you expect the big old draw, you do get a lot of that, but you still get some height out of it. And like I said, the sweet spot on this thing is pretty decent. But overall, a really good iron for somebody looking for, a good amount of forgiveness in an iron that doesn't look crazy big, doesn't have a crazy amount of offset or anything like that. They are long, like I said. I mean, I think these things are probably about, if they're not 3/4 of a club longer than my ZX7s, they're pretty darn close. And like I said, they launch significantly higher. Now, granted, I mean, it's, you have that head, you have, a KBS Max MT shaft, which is, labeled as kind of an 85. So, you're looking at like a 90-gram shaft as opposed to some, 120-gram shaft and all that. So there's a lot of factors in terms of comparing them to, like, the irons I'm playing. But again, overall, I think a really solid iron and really easy to hit. I mean, and like I said, for the sound, they actually sound really good. They've got a good thud to them. If you're comparing the feel to, a Mizuno or a Srixon forging or something like that, definitely way firmer, as you'd expect from a cast club like this, a multi-piece design. But like I said, performance-wise, these things are definitely long. They're definitely easy to hit. And, they're kind of fun to play. You don't really have to think about a whole lot. You just basically pull the club back and let it go, and boom, you're on your way. Now, it does have a big brother, and that would be the Sin2 Max OS. Now, the OS is going to have a little funkier shape to it. It's kind of got a little notch down here near the heel. It's got a lot more offset. The top line's about the same thickness, maybe just a smidge more. Sole's a little wider. Overall, the club feels lighter. I mean, this thing here has a Ventus 6R iron shaft, which is going to be extremely light. The lofts are even stronger on these. I want to say the pitching wedge comes in at 42 degrees, so it's about 1.5 degrees stronger than the max. But again, this is, you know, and again, people sit there and say, well, that's not a pitching wedge. I get it. You know, that's, you know, for some sets, that's a, you know, that's an 8-iron or whatever it is. But again, this is a set made for people who, you know, who want to hit it farther. Like, this is a set like my dad would love. He's almost 70. He doesn't hit it near as far. He always kind of complains about, hey, my 7-iron used to go, you know, when I was in my prime, it went 160, and, you know, now it's like a 140 club, or whatever it is now. And you know, this thing here, he doesn't care what the loft is. All he cares about is if he takes a 7-iron, he hits it 150 now, he's really happy with that. So, you know, I think, again, you know, people put a lot of stock in lofts, and I don't, because, you know, this isn't made for that. You know, if you're a +1 playing, you know, ZX7s, T100s, blades, anything like that, and you play them weak and you hit, you know, you hit a 47-degree pitching wedge, you still hit it 140, or, you know, whatever the number is, hey, that's great. And that's what the thing, like, this isn't built for you. I mean, it's kind of like, would you run a marathon in football cleats? Probably not. You know, or you wouldn't feel too good doing it. So, again, for the player who needs, you know, needs some added distance, wants to hit it farther, this thing is insanely long. And for as strong as the lofts are, you know, like I said, a 42-degree pitching wedge. So this is a 6-iron or 7-iron, which is 27 degrees. It launches way higher than my 7-iron and my Strixon set, which is substantially weaker. You know, the center of gravity is so low on both these clubs. And again, this one, very similar to the Max. It's got actually a good sound to it. It's slightly louder than the Max. It's still got a good thud, but it's slightly louder. The whole, like, cap on the back here is basically meant to dampen the sound and all that. Just like the Max, the face is firm, but the sound is actually pretty muted and pretty reserved and sounds pretty good. I think they kind of nailed the acoustic part of this iron. These things here, I mean, anywhere you hit it on the face, it pretty much goes straight. It pretty much goes far. If you hit it out on the toe, which there's a ton of real estate, out on the toe, out on the heel, it stays on line. It keeps so much distance on those off-speed or off-center shots. They really do carry a good ways, and it is one of those, if you get beyond the looks, it is just a really easy club to hit. I mean, just really simple. I mean, the 4-iron's 18 degrees. I mean, you could put the 4-iron in the bag and just use it as a driving iron. You know, if it didn't have the offset that it did, I bet a lot of people would do that. But it's, you know, like I said, just a simple club to hit. If you hit it low on the face and that's your miss, this thing still gets the ball up in the air so easy and so high. You know, I would say that thin shots on the Max OS probably fly as high as pure shots on my ZX7s. They're pretty close. I mean, it is, like I say, effortless to get the ball in the air. Overall, it's a really light club. It's easy to swing. I would say that if anything, the swing weight's a hair light. It's like D, you know, the stock thing says D0 on these. So they're light, but again, for the player who wants it, the D0 is going to be a little easier to swing. It's going to be a little faster to swing it. And like I said, they definitely go far. They launch a long way. I mean, after hitting my ZX7s and then hitting one of the, you know, both of these, but hitting the OS for sure, I mean, the target that I was hitting at, I mean, it's a club longer, easy. I mean, it just flies by the 160 monitor. This thing, I mean, I wasn't hitting it on a monitor. I didn't have my Rapsodo with me, but I'm willing to bet that this thing, it was easily, for a 7-iron for me, going, you know, 170 to 175. Easy. And that's just looking out on the court, on the range. I don't know 100%, but I mean, and my 7-iron is like a 160 to 165 club. This thing has to be a full, you know, club longer, if not more. Again, really low spin. You don't get a ton of ball movement out of this thing. When you hit it, it goes pretty much straight. There's not a whole lot of work in the ball with this thing. But again, I think for the player who needs this, the higher handicap player, the slower swing speed guy, this thing's really going to do really well. It's really easy to hit, and it's going to make the game more enjoyable. You know, for the single-digit handicappers, yeah, you're probably not going to touch this thing. But again, in terms of, you know, an iron for players who need some help and want the help, and, you know, need some help getting the ball in the air and stuff, you know, both of these are really good. I would say, you know, like I said, that OS is just so simple to hit. It's crazy that TaylorMade's made such an easy set of irons to hit. So, you know, if you're somebody, like I said, like my dad or whatever, who needs some help, go try them. You know, like I said, don't just write them off. I mean, if you got a buddy or whatever who's looking for some irons, you know they need some help, all that, you know, the Sim Max and Sim Max OS are super simple. They're great for high handicap players or players just picking back up the game, stuff like that. They just make it fun. They make it easy. So give them a try. But super high launching, really easy to hit, ton of ball speed on miss hits. I mean, you don't lose hardly anything on the miss hits, which is pretty wild. But overall, just a really great set of irons and really fun to hit. Like I said, they're definitely easy, and it would be one of those things. It'd be interesting to take a set like the OS out and play a couple rounds at the same course as, you know, I play my standard and just see what the difference was. You know, would I actually score differently with those irons? And I think for a lot of players, a lot of higher handicap players, you would definitely see a lower score. But the big thing, like I said, is with those is it's got a good sound to it, and they're not just clanky anymore like a lot of super game improvement irons used to be, like super clanky. I mean, some of them still are, just have a terrible sound, really harsh feel, and these don't have any of that. I mean, the vibration is greatly reduced. They feel firm. They definitely have a little click to them, but the sound is actually really solid. TaylorMade did a good job of dialing that in. So, interesting set. I know not everybody who listens here is going to be super, you know, excited about listening about those, but like I said, definitely worth checking out. So now the other iron, which is something it's really interesting. So for me, I was, you know, kind of I was actually contacted by our boy Ryan Barath, who said, "Hey man, do you want to hit a new Miura iron?" And I said, "Well, it's Miura, yeah, definitely I do." And he was like, "Cool, well, you know, they're going to send you an iron, and you're going to, you know, be able to hit it for your show and all that." And I was like, "Great." Didn't really know anything about it, and what showed up is the new PI 401. So the PI 401 is a multi-piece design with a kind of a deep undercut cavity into it, but it's definitely made to be a more forgiving iron, an easier to hit iron. I won't call it SGI as big as the Sim 2 Max or the Max OS. It kind of, to me, reminds me of a Strixon ZX5. It's kind of that size, multi-piece design just like that. A little wider sole, a little longer heel to toe, but doesn't have a ton of offset. The top line is pretty thin for the iron that it is. And overall, a pretty good shape and great package, which I think you'd expect from Miura. I mean, the finish on it, the badge alone in the back is insanely nice, which, I mean, again, like I said, when you kind of talk about Miura stuff, this stuff is, you know, very, very high quality, and quality controls very, very good. The fit and finish is fantastic. And this is exactly that. I mean, it's got a great brushed finish. Just some of the little details, you know, the little markings in the head are kind of a different finish. They're more of like a rougher kind of painted finish there. I mean, just the little details on it are super, super nice. The iron, though, the PI 401, really actually a great iron. So I took it out on on my Saturday round, which there was a frost delay, so we got pushed back like a half hour. So my buddy John and I sat on the range for a half hour just hitting balls and, you know, talking and chatting, and I brought this with me to play, and, you know, not expecting to get any range time with it. I figured I'd just go right to the course. It definitely went right to the course, or went right on the range with me as well. So went out, hit a bunch of these. Basically the face here, so basically multi-piece design. So it's got an 8620 steel body, and then it's got a S35C carbon steel face, and both of them make a really soft package. I mean, the range balls at Sanctuary Lake are junk. I mean, flat out junk. So, you know, anything you hit feel was very hard to get a good read on. But this thing's actually super easy to hit. The first like 3 shots I hit were absolutely flush, dead down the middle, and just dead straight. I was kind of shocked at how penetrating the ball flight was. I really thought it was going to be, you know, more, I would say closer to, you know, SGI, since for Miura, which everybody knows, I mean, blades, small player cavities, I mean, that's kind of what they're known for. You know, I kind of expected this to be a very forgiving, high launching club and you know, all that. And honestly, very penetrating ball flight, easy to hit into the wind or around the wind. You could flight it down, you could hit it kind of high, you could hit it right and left, you could work the ball with it. It was actually, you know, much more versatile than I thought it was going to be out on the range and on the course. So, because I got it on the course as well. And honestly, it's very long. The ball jumps off the face. It really does go. It seems to be, you know, a fairly low spin. I wouldn't say crazy low spin. You could get it to, you know, if you got super steep with it, you could get it to put a little rise in the ball, but not a ton. Shots missed out on the toe and the heel. You know, with that face material, really actually carried a good amount of ball speed. My friend John hit it as well. Was super impressed with how easy it was to square up and to hit it. And honestly, the feel and sound is really good. I mean, there's just a, you know, they even say, you know, it's got that Miura feel in it. It's not as soft as, like, say, a set of baby blades, but it's pretty darn soft. I mean, you can really feel the ball compress. It's very responsive. When you do miss it a little bit, you're going to know immediately. The sound, like I said, is just a really slight click with those crappy range balls. With a ZX7 or ZX7 with a Srixon Z-Star XV. Very minimal. I mean, it's almost just, you know, just a thud. I would say it's just, compared to my ZX7, just a hair louder and a hair firmer than that. They really did add some good feel to these. And I could see a lot of players who, you know, if you're somebody who plays on Miura, cavity back or blade, tossing something like a 4-iron of this into the bag, because it really is, you know, an easy club to hit, but you're not going to lose a ton of that feel. Like I said, I just had the 6-iron. I wasn't able to hit the whole set, but the 6-iron, they play off fairly traditional loft. The pitching wedge on these is 44, so about a degree stronger than some standards. 6-iron here plays 27 degrees. Like I said, the launch was I would call it true mid, you know, mid launch. I don't think it's a mid high. At least it wasn't for me. I thought it was, you know, more of a mid launch and very controllable, easy to work the ball. It cut through the wind well because it was pretty penetrating flight. And the sole is actually kind of like a V sole. It's a little wider than my ZX7s. Like I said, I think this would be very close to a ZX5. Little wider sole, and it does have a little bit of a V sole. And getting it into the turf on the course, turf interaction was great. Now the course was a little firmer than it usually is, but still, I mean, it got through the turf really well. Even if you got a little steep with it, which I tend to do, you know, the club would initially hit and then kind of want to get itself up and out of that divot. So, you know, like I said, very, very comfortable feeling in terms of turf interaction coming from my Srixons, because I think this is a very similar sole with how they've designed it. When you look at it, it's got a good amount of bounce to it, which is great if you're somebody who plays really soft conditions. But the sole, you know, is narrow enough where, you know, hitting it out of the rough and things like that were no problem. So, spin on it was really good. It held the grain just fine. I mean, overall, just kind of a, you know, it's that Miura club for somebody who needs some help but wants some precision as well. You know, you want a little bit of precision. You want to be able to work the ball. You want to hit some shots in it, some tight pins. Definitely can do that with this club. You know, maybe not as so much as, like I said, a set of, you know, say 501s. But this PI 401 was really impressive. And like I said, my buddy John, I handed it to him. I was like, man, this is, you know, pretty good. He hit a handful of shots with it, and the first few, same thing he hit was just like, wow, the thing feels really good. It's easy to hit. Like I said, he's a little higher handicapper than me, and he would, you know, had no problem striping this thing. And I think the handful of shots that he hit were very, very good. So, like I said, the ball speed on miss hits is really good. You know, some people, I think, you know, worry about hot spots, things like that. I didn't notice anything with this. You know, I hit a couple off the toe. I hit one really crappy range ball that I had to, like, scrub the face to get the mark off. But it was, like, you know, kind of out near, you know, it was definitely off center. But the ball actually still carried pretty well. I mean, I would say, you know, I would have came up short of the green, but it stayed on line well and you know, would have put me in front of the green for just a nice, easy chip. But again, I think the biggest thing with this is the feel, which is really, really soft. Some two-piece designs can get a little clicky, can get a little firmer, just, you know, depending on what they use for the body and then the face. But Miura, like I think you'd expect, kind of nailed this one. And if you're somebody who, you know, you've loved Miura stuff, but there really hasn't been a ton of more game improvement irons from them, I think this is a great look. And honestly, the look from address is really, really good. You know, like I said, setting it down, very minimal offset. The top line is I won't call it razor thin, but it's pretty thin for the iron that it is. Now it is a little long heel to toe, but again, that's just to kind of add a little forgiveness, give you a little wider sweet spot, and be able to hit it straighter. But a really solid addition to the Miura line, in my opinion. I mean, just like I said, something that for a two-piece design, it's probably one of those ones that probably feel one of the best out of all the two-piece designs I've hit. I would say this and, like I said, a ZX5 would be very comparable in terms of hitting them next to each other. This flies flatter, so if you're somebody who kind of hits the ZX5, it goes a little high. This PI 401 is definitely worth looking into because, like I said, for me, it's definitely a flatter ball flight. And in here was the Modus Tour 120, which is the same as my ZX7s. So, like I said, little flatter ball flight and probably a very similar trajectory to my ZX7, but in a much more forgiving and higher ball speed package. So, like I said, really impressed with the iron. I thought it was really nice to hit. I think it's a great iron for an average golfer who wants that Miura feel and loves the brand, but can't play 501s or any of the blades, which is me. Really, really nice iron. So it's kind of a shame that I have to send it back, and it's kind of a shame I don't get the 6-iron. But again, really a great iron. So that's the PI 401. If you check out MiuraGolf.com, it's on there with all the specs. And like I said, it's a great iron. So that would be one that, honestly, like if I could just get my hands on a 4-iron, I'd probably just play the 4-iron. I might scrap the utility iron and just play 4-iron of a PI 401 and play the rest of my set as the Srixon ZX7. So it is a great iron. Like I said, if you're into the Miura stuff, go ahead and check it out. It's pretty cool. So that's all the irons I got. I've gotten through all my irons, and now let's get into a little bit of All Fit. Like I said, I think All Fit's going to kind of take over a couple shows just because there's so much involved with it. But basically, All Fit, if you're not familiar with it, is a universal shaft and driver head system. So what they do is they send you this nice little aluminum box or tin box with a little window in it. And inside the box, which I'm missing a few because they're in drivers, there's a little sleeve. And this sleeve fits into your driver head. And they've got one for Callaway, and they've got one for Cobra and PXG, and basically every major manufacturer out there. I mean, they even have one for Ippon, Titleist, Ping, Mizuno, Tour Edge. I mean, you name it, they pretty much have one for everything. They've even got a hybrid one as well, which I haven't installed yet. When I reach out to these guys, I got a kind of little everything. But they've also got a hybrid one as well, which, like Callaway, Titleist, I mean, these interchangeable or these adjustable shaft hybrids, they've got a version for that as well, which is pretty cool because I don't think Club Connects had that. So I was a big proponent of Club Connects. Club Connects was another universal shaft system, and to many's disappointment, it looks like they're going the way of charging, because it was originally built for fitters. Like, these systems were built for fitters, have them in their shop so they could have a wall of shafts like I do in my studio here, and you could stick them into any head to do fittings. And that's what it was meant for, and it was great. And Club Connects has decided that they're going to focus more on fitters and charge at least for right now, they're going to charge a like $300 monthly fee to use the system. The $300 fee does not include any pieces, so you'd still have to buy all the shaft tips, all the driver sleeves that they make, and all that. And unfortunately, this doesn't make sense for people like us who maybe have just a couple shafts and one or two driver heads or whatever. We're kind of small-time tinkerers in a sense, and that doesn't really fit into our budget. So I was on the GolfWRX forums. There was a lot of guys talking about this unfortunate side of where Club Connects was going, and people were discussing some options, and there weren't many. I mean, they're like Billy Bob's has an option, but unfortunately, what the Billy Bob's want, Billy Bob's Golf, if you haven't heard of them, they make a lot of components, aftermarket weights, stuff like that for your drivers, woods, and clubs, and they really make top-notch stuff. They're really good, and they've got a universal shaft system that you can use that's very similar, but you then have to actually go through and like get counterweights because the adapters for each driver and stuff weigh different amounts, and they don't match up necessarily with the OEM driver. So they don't match up as well, so you have to counterbalance the shafts in order to make it work. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going down that road. Like, it's not going to happen. So there was a lot of guys talking about the stuff here. If you go into the GolfWRX forum and you kind of look under, what is it? I think it's under the WRX club text in the forum. There's a Club Connects hyphen what's going on, and a bunch of guys talking about the all fit stuff. One guy, Swing Blues, has been really good. He got the system before me, and him and I have been chatting a little bit, and found some of the limitations, some of the good things, the bad things, anything like that. And it basically is, like I said, this all fit system is newer, and like I said, they've got everything out there for just about every driver. So, I reached out to them, and they sent me some pieces, and going to try it out and see. And like I said, I think a few people in the GolfWRX forum have already purchased theirs as well, or are waiting on them to show up. So to get into it, like overall, I think the fit and finish is pretty good. I would say it's not quite as good as Club Connects. There's a few things where you'll get some sharp edges and things like that stick up on some of these adapters or some of the driver sleeves. But it's nothing too major. It's pretty minimal. For your pleasure, they make the shaft adapter is, that they make. The stock one is, they make a black, but they also, if you're interested, they make, I think, red, yellow, blue, black. They make a handful of colors of it, which is kind of cool if it's something that you're into. I think they make a silver one, all that. So you can see, like, here's my black Sim 2 Max head, and it's got kind of a yellowish gold, I guess it would be considered more yellow sleeve in there. All the sleeves are the same from what I can tell, just a color thing. So if you're into colors, or maybe you want to use colors to match up with certain shafts to kind of help, maybe you have some stiff flex or some extra stiff or some tip shafts or whatever, they have color options if it's something where you either like the color or you want some organization. Kind of cool. I'm okay with that. I'll probably go all black with, if I go all in on this system, I'll probably go to the all black version, just to keep everything kind of uniform. The driver sleeves are really good. I mean, they're super lightweight. Everything about them is super lightweight. They're all pretty short. The only one that's got some heft to it is the Callaway adapter. And there's two. There's the old Callaway adapter that's super long. So this would be Razor Fit, X-Hot, some of the older ones there. That's kind of bigger. And but the Callaway one, again, the same thing, is pretty traditional. There's they're all pretty lightweight. I haven't weighed them yet, which I'll get to, but overall, I can't imagine that these things seem like they're super lightweight aluminum. These seem like the same, and they like I said, they're pretty lightweight. I can't see it really altering swing weight much. If anything, it may actually remove some swing weight, I'm sorry, add some swing weight because they're so light. You may lose a few grams going to this from certain manufacturers, but overall, the system is pretty good. It's solid. Like I said, I had it in, I put it in the Tour Edge, the brand new Tour Edge head. I've also put it in the my Sim 2 Max. And both of them, in terms of feel out on the course, have been really good. They're really solid. They feel good. They play really well. I mean, I didn't notice, I played a few rounds with my TaylorMade head with the stock shaft and stock adapter. Putting in the new adapter, the all-fit one, the feel and everything is exactly the same. I haven't noticed any difference in that. They really do, feel and feel the same. I didn't notice any type of looseness, anything like that on the course. Now, the one thing that's interesting is that with the driver sleeves, a couple of them do need, so like TaylorMade, you actually keep the TaylorMade screw, which Club Connects, you actually switched out the screw for every driver. The TaylorMade one stays the same, as does, I think, there's a couple others that do, or that you switch out, but it's a pretty standard length screw that comes with it, which is kind of based off the TaylorMade screw. It's a little bigger, a little heftier. I'm a little bummed that you have to keep the TaylorMade screw, because I think that's the one thing where TaylorMade lacks, is that there's the screws in their driver. If you're a big shaft swapper like I am, they tend to wear out pretty fast, which is a little bit of a bummer. You can get them off eBay pretty cheap, which is what I do. But these things, if you're swapping shafts out a lot, like I said, which me, I mean, I'm half the time I'm switching out multiple times at the range, and then even on the course, you know, after 9 holes or whatever, I'm switching out driver shafts, and I'll wear out, you know, if I stick with my 2 Max and it's my gamer and I go through different shafts, I'll burn through at least 4 screws this year, minimum. But they make an extra long screw for Ping, PXG, Cobra, and Honda, Hanma. Jeez, somebody hit me up and said you can't pronounce Hanma, and I'm like, no, I can't. But no, they have you know, screws for those which are a little longer. They also do come with the rubber washers with them, so that way, you know, when you put it in the head, you don't have the screw falling out. So there's a little rubber washer that helps install there to keep the screw in place. But overall, it's actually a really nice system. It's pretty decent. Shaft. The one other plus is that if you're starting with this system from scratch, you don't have to tip your shafts. The insert depth on these adapters into the heads is much lower than Club Connects, so you don't have to tip any of the shafts, which is pretty nice. That is the one, I wouldn't say downside, but Club Connects, you were basically tipping your shafts like 3/4 of an inch to make them play pretty much, you know, true to flex. With this system, you don't have to. Which is nice, because if you're somebody who plays something where you do tip your shaft, you know, extra on top of it, you don't have to worry about running out of parallel tip section or anything like that, like you possibly could with Club Connects. Now, the downside is if you're a Club Connects guy like I am and you put a lot of time and money into that system, unfortunately, the shafts are not compatible in terms of if you pull the shafts out of a Club Connect shaft and you put it into an all-fit shaft, you are unfortunately going to come up about a 1/2 inch short, and you're going to be playing at 3/4 of an inch tipped. So it kind of stinks because, I mean, as a lot of you know, or if you watch this on YouTube, I have a whole wall of shafts behind me, plus a bunch more, and they were all cut down for Club Connects, and now I have to decide, do I try to start from scratch and get some new shafts, and then, you know, install them in all fit and kind of go all in on this system, or do I, you know, put a bunch of 3/4 inch tip shafts into all fit and put a, you know, a 1/2 inch extension on the back. It's one of those that I don't love that part of it. But again, 2 different systems. If you start with all fit, it's great because you do have a longer shaft length, and, you know, if you were ever to pull the shafts, you know, you could probably put one into a standard adapter a little bit easier and not lose too much length. But overall, the system's pretty good. You know, like I said, when you have, it's got some settings as well. So if you put it in there, they have the standard setting, and then you can basically lower the loft to up to 1.5 degrees, as well as raise the loft 1.5 degrees. Now they do have an upright setting as well. From what I can tell, there's not a true just flat setting that you just keep standard loft and flat. And there's really no flat setting other than as you change the loft and lie, or loft on here, you know, the face angle will open and close, and it may adjust the lie slightly, but that's not like independently there, which like Club Connects did kind of label their stuff with, which, you know, here because they had a flat setting, a standard flat setting, and things like that. So it does lack a little bit of that, but I think overall having adjustment along with your head is still really good. I mean, anytime you go to a universal system, there's gonna be some limitations, and I think, you know, losing the ability to change lie a ton is unfortunate, but I think still being able to adjust loft is still a good trade-off. And like I said, being able to use it for just about any driver and shaft out there. There's some interesting things that I've noticed, and some other people have noticed as well, as a few people have let me know. I guess like the Ping drivers, I haven't loaded this into the G425 yet, but I had somebody on Instagram at Club Junkie Pod DM me that the Ping screw that's a little longer they don't think it fits great, and they're thinking it's not getting into the adapters as deep as it should, and they're worried about stripping it. I haven't got it into the G425 head yet, so I can't comment on that. I did notice that Tour Edge's newest driver, you had to use the extreme long screw that is kind of intended for Cobra. You had to use that on this head, and then I actually had to find my own washer because the screw head on that is really small, and the opening on the tour edge head is pretty big. So I did have to kind of find my own washer for that. And then the other thing too is that you can't actually get a true standard setting on the tour edge head. The way that it's grooved, you're either going to have to go a slight bit lower or a slight bit higher in terms of loft. It won't go true standard in the tour edge head, which is a little bit of a bummer. I mean, it doesn't make a huge difference. I mean, if I'm lowering the loft, if I'm going from standard to, minus a quarter or 3/4 of a degree, it's not a horrible thing. But it's interesting that it doesn't go to standard. Like I said, the grooves just don't line up, which is interesting. Again, there's going to be some limitations here. That is one I thought could be engineered out of it. But we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'll get it into some more heads, see what other things are there. But overall, I think if you're starting from scratch and jumping in, it's definitely a less expensive system. All fit. The driver sleeves that go into the driver are $10 each, and the shaft tips right now, I think on their site, are $15. They're basically $20 a piece, so basically you're at $25 per driver, driver and one shaft, you're at $25, where Club Connects is like $40 for the same setup. So, definitely a little cheaper. Like I said, there will be some limitations to it. I think overall, I'll be able to get by the limitations. It's just going to be, how do I want to transition over to it with the shafts that I already have for Club Connects. So if you're definitely starting out, right now, it looks like a pretty good system. Like I said, I'm going to get into some more heads, put some more shafts in there, and I'll kind of let you know what I'm finding as I go along with it. But right now, I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty good. I've got 15 more adapters in my shopping cart. I haven't purchased them yet, but I've got another 15 in my shopping cart, which is another $225 plus shipping, which stinks. But for all the shafts I have, but that's the thing. Do I want to spend $225 on shaft tips when I know none of the shaft, like I said, all my shafts are going to be tipped 3/4 of an inch and come up half an inch short. So then I'm going to have to put extensions in them, or because some of them, may play closer to 44 inches. So I'll have to extend them and then get new grips and all that. It could be a very expensive switch over to this. So I don't know yet. We'll see. I haven't made my decision of fully going all in yet. But I think if you're starting from scratch, it's definitely worth looking at and seeing, the cost. If you have, one or two, maybe three shafts sitting at home and you've got, one or two heads, I think the cost is definitely worth it. And, especially if they're, full length shafts, like out of a standard adapter from an OEM like TaylorMade or whatever, I think it's kind of a no-brainer to go this route. If you're somebody who currently plays Club Connects and you're looking to move over, that's a tough one because, like I said, your shafts aren't going to play the same. So that's a hard one to decide what you're going to do, and I'm in that boat. So, but overall, really impressed with it. Impressed with it so far. I'm like hesitant now to say like go grab it and try it because I told people to go after Club Connects, and now I feel like a jerk because that has gone kaput. And I know some people probably spent a bunch of money there, and for that I do apologize. So I didn't know they were going to change this policy and all that. But we'll see. But like I said, right now, Allfit is pretty good. If you want to check it out, go to allfitgolf.com. They've got all the pieces there and all that. Check it out. See if it's something you want to dive into. But if you're a tinkerer and you've got a couple shafts or a couple heads and all that, I think for the price, it's hard to beat. Like I said, it has a few limitations in terms of adjustment. But overall, the ability to still have some adjustment and to still use the same shaft in a couple different heads or all the different heads, I think that's a huge plus. So, like I said, allfitgolf.com, check it out. Like I said, I'll talk about the iron stuff a little later, and the more I get some heads and more heads I get installed and all that, I'll see if I run into any issues that, like I said, I've heard one or two of. So we'll see. If you want to hit me up with any questions, anything like that, the best way to do it, Instagram @ClubJunkiePod is my Instagram handle. Hit me up there. I always love doing my Q&As every Wednesday today. Or maybe Thursday, depends on how lazy I am. And then, shoot me a DM if you have a question, something like that. I enjoy chatting some golf with everybody. So have a good rest of the week. Hopefully you play some golf, and we'll talk to you next week.